All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this BroadE workshop. This BroadE is dedicated to Terra. So you can hear all about Terra today, get hands-on with Terra, find out what it is. If you've used Terra before, you'll learn some more cool tips and tricks. Such a gorgeous day on the way in. I was saying to my wife on the way here, it's like, gosh, it reminds me of those days in high school when gorgeous May day, you get to class and you'd hope that like there'd be one cool teacher, be like, let's have class outside today, like their literature teacher. Sadly, this is not literature class, and I'm not that cool, so we're going to be stuck in here today, unfortunately. So, all right, few questions to get started. How many people here have used Terra already? Okay, a handful have gotten, yeah. Many of you were probably FireCloud users before, or how many of those people were brand new to a cloud analysis platform that you didn't use FireCloud? Actually, quite a few, great. Those who haven't used Terra yet, how many of you are FireCloud users or have used FireCloud? Just a couple more. And so the rest of you, maybe about half, haven't used either of those platforms before. So that's totally fine. This is going to be an introduction to doing research on the cloud. So there was no prior knowledge experience required. So hopefully today you'll come away with how to get onto Terra, how to use it to power your research, and hopefully create a great collaborative environment with your colleagues. Quick couple notes before we start. So anyone not yet logged into Terra that hasn't yet gone to the website or signed in with a Google account? Is everyone? You do once you get to the website. I'll show you. So what you do is you click on that little, what we nickname the hamburger menu there, and then you do sign in with Google. And I'll continue speaking, but if you have any issues, just raise your hand, and myself or Anton or Kate will help assist. So the team presenting today is going to be from the data sciences platform here at BroadE. That's where Terra is being developed. Okay, yeah, getting back to about half of you have never used a cloud analysis platform before. That's no problem. Hopefully by the end of the day, you'll feel pretty comfortable. A couple quick things. So, oh yes, if you haven't signed up for Terra already, please go ahead and do so now. It looks like just about everyone should be there. And if you go to this link, you can find all of today's presentations and other materials. If you want to go back and look at them later, if you want to share them with a colleague, totally fine, and feel free to do so there. So take a quick look at our agenda for today. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you about what Terra is and what the vision behind Terra is. It's called the data Biosphere. After that, we're going to take you into one of the key features of Terra, which is interactive analysis. And one of the main ways in which you can do that is with Jupyter Notebooks. I suspect maybe some of you use Jupyter Notebooks, probably some of you have not. No problem, we're going to get everyone kind of up to speed pretty quick. One of the great things about Terra is you can work with tabular data from BigQuery. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with BigQuery that can save you time and money. We'll show you a bit about how to work with BigQuery in Terra. And if you've never used or heard of BigQuery, no problem. We'll tell you all about it. After our lunch break, we can talk about the not so sexy things, but still quite important things of how do you pay for your work on Terra. So Terra, the platform is free, but you do need to pay for storage and computation costs. We'll tell you also about how Terra securely handles your data and allows you to collaborate with just the people you want and give them specific levels of access. So up to that point in the day, we're going to be talking about kind of how to do how to work with data in Jupyter Notebooks. After we talk about those important billing and cost topics, we'll show you how do you run a workflow. If you're doing genomic analysis, for example, if you are a user of the Genome Analysis Toolkit, this is something you're probably going to be wanting to do on Terra, is to learn how to run a workflow with a workflow script. After that, I'm going to talk about how to use Docker. Maybe you've heard of Docker, maybe you haven't. We'll tell you about it, tell you what it really enables you to do, and also enables you to do on Terra. After the break, we'll come back and we're going to show you a case study on Terra. So I won't get into details now, but basically we're going to show you a reproduction of an actual study and how it was reproduced on Terra to give you a sense of So the first few things we talk about are really just kind of examples. They're really simple examples to get you on board, get you a sense of how it works, what to do. But this will be a real paper and show you what does that look like in Terra. All right, so I'm going to switch to my computer. Sure. Oh, and then I had one other question. We ran a BroadE workshop back in March that was really about learning how to use the genome analysis toolkits. But what we did in that workshop was we ran the workshop on Terra. Was anybody here for that four-day BroadE back in March on GATK? That's what I was, a couple people. Well, you don't count. One person at least anyways. Okay, so that's what about anticipating that probably we didn't have a lot of overlap between this, which is good. You might be the only one who's like, I've heard some of this Terra intro stuff before, but be a good refresher. All right, so I'm going to tell you a bit about what Terra is, what's the vision behind it, and what's it for, how can it enable you, how can it power your research, how can it hopefully make it easier to collaborate and share your work and get your science done faster, and you don't have to worry about annoying things like wrangling software. Our tagline for Terra is a platform for biomedical researchers to access data, run analysis tools, and collaborate. Up until recently, we would often call it a cloud-native platform for biomedical researchers to access data. But really, the vision here is that the novelty of cloud computing is going to no longer be a novelty. That's just research computing. That's the vision here, is that the BroadE Institute has made a commitment to push that vision forward, and this is where the research community needs to go, and that on-site computation is not going to entirely go away, but it's not going to be hopefully the primary way in which people do their research and interact with their data. So I don't think anyone here would be surprised to think about 30 years ago and say, well, research world is really not the same as it used to be, and there's a lot of things in the world that aren't the same as they used to be. You know, you used to watch a movie, you had to go down to the video store and pick out a video and hope they had the video you wanted. And if they didn't have it, well, you were out of luck. Of course, now you have basically the world's movie catalog at your fingertips. And if it's not included with your subscription, you can just pay a few dollars to get it. What I find funny about this image here is that the elder, maybe siblings here, are letting this young lad look at the horror section. They're probably saying, oh, this one will give him nightmares. You want to talk on the phone, you had to stand in your kitchen with a really long cord and everyone could hear your conversation, but now we have cell phones, you can go anywhere, talk to anyone at any time. And all the data that a researcher might need to have was probably collected in their notebook. I don't know if it was a trapper keeper, maybe some of the more stylish grad students used trapper keepers in the lab in the 80s, but certainly everything you needed was kind of written down and stored there, and that's really not realistic or feasible anymore. There's a big data problem. So it's now becoming obvious that research really relies on huge quantities of data generated by both individual labs and by huge consortia. And how do you find what you're looking for? How do you work with that data? I mean, there's big problems about how do you interpret the format if it was produced by one group or another? How do you compute on that if it's such a huge amount of data? Is it realistic to build a massive computing center to do a study? In any case, data is just getting so big that it's not really practical to download anymore. Like it's, just the amount of storage you need is getting quickly outpaced. The amount of storage you have is getting quickly outpaced by the amount of data that's available. But that old way of doing research, of downloading data, means that you must download the data, or maybe you don't. So there's what I've been hinting at is this traditional way of doing research, of where you have a central data repository, and the individual researchers who need access to the data will apply for access if it's a controlled data set. Once they have access granted, they will go and download that data, or it might have them sent to them. They used to be, people would send hard drives in the mail of data. So either you downloaded or you had it sent to you on physical disk. That means that every person who needs to download data needs to have the infrastructure to handle it, to do the computation on it. The amount of computation they have is fixed because it's limited by what their organization, institution, or the laboratory has set up. And there's not infinite amount of compute that they could purchase or arrange. There's some ceiling to it. And security is kind of out the door once it's downloaded. It's now up to the individual labs. It's now their responsibility to make sure the data remains secure. And certainly that's, I'm sure everyone intends to keep it secure, but not everyone may necessarily be trained in the highest security techniques. So the cloud way turns that around. So it says, okay, the data lives on a public cloud. Individual researchers now come to the data. Data's not going anywhere. It's staying where it is. They access it through the cloud. So this is true data sharing, where everyone's accessing the same data. They're not downloading their own copies of it. The cloud provides the infrastructure, which takes a lot of headache away from the institutions and from the individual labs. They don't need to worry about setting up, managing servers and clusters. It's all done by an expert third-party service. Storage and the compute are elastic, and that means that you just pay for what you need. If you need a lot of computing today, you can pay for that. You don't need it tomorrow. You're not paying for it tomorrow. And security is centralized, meaning that there's one cloud provider who is following approved guidelines for security, and it's not now in the hands of individual researchers who've downloaded the data. So I think that's a comfort also to the organizations who generate those data sets and have to manage security for those. So this is a blog post that was published about a year and a half ago, and this was written by a group of people, including Anthony, who's director of DSP. It's kind of setting the vision for what that new vision, the new cloud way of doing research, really looks like in more granular terms. So I'm not going to go into the article in detail today, but I definitely recommend that you go check it out. So it's published on Medium, and we'll have the materials later if you don't want to grab the link right now. But it really sets the vision for what does something like Terra look like. What does it have to do? What does it need to accomplish? And kind of one key quote that I pull out from here is that in this kind of vision article, they propose creating what they call a vibrant ecosystem. So there's not just Terra and nothing else. It's not monolithic. There's Terra and there's other things as well. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But the components of this ecosystem are modular and interoperable, meaning that they can be developed by others, but they talk well to each other. And that can be assembled into diverse data environments. And that's really kind of what the spirit of Terra is an environment for working with data. Just a few quick things before we move on about this, this data biosphere vision was that they identified kind of 4 main governing principles to the data biosphere. So one of those things is it has to be modular. So you're going to have different pieces of software developed that will run and do different things, but they need to be able to talk to each other. You don't want to be progressing through your research and kind of get stuck when software isn't talking to each other. So they need to have standards for how these things interact. It needs to be community driven. So this is not going to be top down. It's going to be grassroots, bottom up. Communities are going to develop the tools they need for the projects they are interested in. And those things will be able to easily plug into a modular environment. It needs to be open. It needs to be, so Terra is open source. Anyone can take the code, stand up their own version of Terra, add some custom modules to it. Here at BroadE, we're running kind of the generic version of Terra that is free to the world to come in and do, but there are private companies who might want to have a private instance of Terra internally. They can do that. They can take the code and modify it as they need. And it has to be standards-based, so it can't be willy-nilly. So Terra follows guidelines established by the Global Alliance for Genomic Health, if anyone's heard of that. So it's an organization that sets standards for how genomic data is handled and interacted with now. It's great, so that's an awesome idea. How do we actually do it? So the vision is that The partner institutions that are currently driving this were represented by the authors on the article. BroadE is one of them. So BroadE is primarily building Terra. We have the software engineers over a data science platform who are building Terra. Verily is primarily funding the effort, and we have data scientists and software engineers from Verily who are supporting us in this, and we're also getting lots of support and collaboration from these institutions as well. And then we're following the standards. Yep.
What and who is Verily?
Oh, yeah, so
Small part of Google.
Indeed. So Verily is what was formerly known as Google Life Sciences. So it's part of the Alphabet family of companies. So it's a sister company to Google. So yes, it's in that family. Terra runs on the Google Cloud platform, but there's work underway to make it talk to other platforms as well as like Amazon or Alibaba. And okay, so that's the people who are coming together to build Terra. And another way to think about Terra is that it's building a home for research data on the cloud. So Terra is a great way to think about how do I easily find, access, work with data that I need to answer my research questions. And really, it's kind of like a central hub for many data sets. These are just a few that are coming online soon if they're not already. TCGA from NCI, you might have heard of the All of Us research program from NIH. That's going to be accessible through Terra or a specific All of Us branded portal of Terra. NIH's Data Commons data be available via Terra, and other things like Human Cell Atlas, which is kind of well known here at BroadE. So, and this is just a kind of a snapshot of the types of data sets that we're making accessible through Terra. And the key thing here is that it's kind of like Terra is an easy way to find and then apply for access. So we're working on security features that allow you to easily apply for access to data sets. So it's not a long and complicated procedure. So within hopefully a short amount of time, you can access the data you need with approval from those who manage the data. And that vision now boils down to, for Terra, an application on the web. So essentially, it's where you find data, access it. It's where you can analyze it with easy-to-use tools and resources, and where you can share, where the sharing features are really as easy as a Google Doc. Just a quick look at some of those things more in depth. So in the data library section, you can find data sets. These are just kind of a sampling at the top of the page of what's either there already or coming soon. Or of course, you can bring your own data to the cloud. You can upload your data to a Google Cloud storage bucket that's associated with your workspace. We'll hear more of those terms coming soon. You can find and use tools for life sciences research. So if you're a genomic researcher, you can align and QC sequence data, call short variants, do joint calling across the population, or filter genetic variants. Again, this is a short list of the things you can do. You can easily analyze the data, so you can interrogate your data in real time. You can interact with it through Jupyter Notebooks. And you are able to use Hail within Terra. We're not going to cover that today, but we have a featured workspace that shows you how to run Hail within Terra for doing genome-wide association studies. So I mentioned the term workspace. If you're familiar with Firecloud, it's really, actually I just realized I didn't really explain well the relationship between Firecloud and Terra. I was asking those questions at the start about has anyone used Firecloud, has anyone used Terra? So Firecloud was really a pilot project for just this vision. Firecloud was funded by the NCI. It was built here at BroadE for accessing and working with TCGA or Cancer Genome Atlas data on the cloud. And the end result was that the signs are really good, that we could do this. But we really needed a better user interface. We needed a more intuitive, easier way to do it, and Terra was that solution where underlying components from Firecloud to Terra are the same. So if you were a Firecloud user and you log into Terra, all your work is still there. You haven't lost anything. If you are if you're brand new to Terra, then you can just start working right away. But the user interface for Terra was designed from the ground up. So we didn't just take Firecloud and improve it. We just wholesale built a new user interface, but the underlying components are all the same. So I mentioned something called the Workspace. So the Workspace is really the computational sandbox where you do work. It's where you bring data in. It's where you work with and structure your data for analysis. It's where you import the tools you want to run on your data. It's where you, and then it's also where you analyze your data. I'm not going to go into this in depth, but essentially your workspace lives within the cloud. Your data model is your kind of representation of what your data is, what data types you have. And then that data model points to where the data lives. It could be in the Google storage bucket associated with your workspace. Every time you create a new workspace, you have a new Google bucket associated with that that's empty, and you can start putting data into it. Or it could point to the Terra data library, or it could point to other storage. It could be another Google Cloud bucket that you've created before. It could be someone else's that you have access to. It's flexible. Data can be uploaded, metadata can be uploaded to the portal. And also, I think we have a new feature that allows you just with a simple click to upload data straight in the application. You don't have to first put it in the Google Cloud bucket. You could do that as well. You could upload data directly to the bucket, or you can, from in the application, upload it right there. Kind of like uploading a photo to Facebook, that kind of thing. We're going to see more of what the workspace looks like later, but a brief snapshot shows you that kind of the workspace is where you can document your work. So it has a dashboard where you can write all about what you have and what you did. And then there's tabs that show you, this is where you work with your data, the notebooks that you're working with, the tools that you've imported, and then you can monitor your, the computational jobs that you've run there. I keep mentioning notebooks, and if you're not a notebook user, it might be a bit unclear what I mean, but we're going to get you hands-on with Jupyter Notebooks in just a little bit this morning. But this is where you can write code, run commands, plot data visually, so you can visualize data, and they can easily share those notebooks with others. It's really the digital version of a lab notebook. You will recognize this because you were at the GATK workshop, but this is what I'm showing here is an example of a notebook in which we placed a GATK Genome Analysis Toolkit tutorial in it. So we can use these as educational tools as well. We can have people learning how to use genomic analysis tools, run example problems within a notebook in Terra. One of the great features about Terra is that we have a section dedicated to really cool research that you might be interested in doing. And we call this our showcase and tutorial section, or you might hear us call it featured workspace, which is kind of a nickname, but you'll see in the showcase and tutorial section. And for example, there we have the best practices pipelines for the Genome Analysis Toolkit there, preloaded with sample data sets ready for you to try them out on your own or provide your own data and run the tool there. So it's a really great way to get hands-on right away with something, with having an example workspace to work with. And we have more than just GATK workflows there. We have a growing list of other cool either tools and tricks that you can learn how to use, or case studies. So, for example, this is the one that we're going to look at towards the end of the day today. It's going to be a really great resource. It's going to be continually growing and updating, and with new things all the time. Terra makes it really easy to share with your colleagues. So you can invite people to work with you and control who has access to your research on Terra. When you create a new workspace, by default it's private. You're the only person who can access it, who even knows it exists. But you can then share it with your colleagues, and you can give them reader access if you just want them to be able to view it but not be able to do anything or change anything. Writer, which means they can do things. They can change what's in the workspace. They can write to it. Or owner, which gives them the added ability to invite other people to the workspace. Terra is really flexible about how you can do your computations. So you could work with one large virtual machine in Terra, and this is all in the Google platform. You can run R or Python in Jupyter. You can run shell scripts on the terminal. You can do large-scale analytics by loading tabular data into BigQuery. And you can do, for kind of the germline geneticist, you can do batch computing, where you can run tools on a bunch of samples, takes a long time, but you can set it and forget it, come back later when it's done. And that is using our workflow description language, which we're going to touch on very minimally today, but it's BroadE is one of the partners in a consortium that develops that language. It's a really easy to read and write scripting language for running workflows. And then Cromwell's the name for the execution engine that runs our workflow scripts in Terra. And kind of one of the last points, but certainly not the least, is that security is a high priority in Terra. Some of these terms may not be familiar, but you can rest assured that there are good things, that Terra is certified FISMA moderate. It leverages security features already in the Google Cloud Platform, something called being FedRAMP authorized. And then essentially the take-home message here is that Terra configures these resources appropriately so you can confidently get your work done on the cloud. And then important questions are, well, how much does it cost? And as I mentioned, that the platform itself is free. It's free for you to register for, view, look at other people's work, get work shared with you. What we do need to pay for is if you're going to store any data on the Google Cloud Platform for use in Terra, if you're going to do computational analysis on it, or if you're going to download it, or it's called egress, you do have to pay for that as well. But Terra makes it really easy to configure your billing project in the Google Cloud Platform, and then you can add, you can share that billing project with members of your lab so that you're all paying from the same pool of money. But you don't have to worry about that if you just want to try it out and get started. We have a free credits program that's powered by a third-party company called Onyx, where every new user who comes to Terra gets $300 of cloud credits, which if you do some small analyses, that you can actually do quite a bit of poking around in Terra for $300, and that lasts for 60 days from the time you activate it. So it's not automatically activated as soon as you join Terra. I think there's a little banner at the top that you have to click. But once you do, you've got 60 days to use that $300. And really, the take-home message is that Terra should help you spend time doing science and not worrying about wrangling software. All right, any questions before we start getting acquainted with some of the features of Terra and getting hands-on with Terra?
Are you going to make your slides available?
Yes. Yep, because I think they're not in there yet.
Well, the ones that it was pointed to ahead of time
Are they an older version?
They often don't match.
Yes, so we'll replace those. Yes, I was regrettably tweaking this late last night. So. Okay, yes?
So Terra is designed specifically for Google, or you can use it in Amazon and others?
Currently, it just runs on the Google Cloud Platform, but in the future, it will be able to talk to other cloud platforms like Amazon or Alibaba and others. So it's not a long-term only Google Cloud Platform thing, but right now it's built on Google Cloud. Yep.
I registered for the Google Cloud, I think. So then the 60 days pass and everything, the $300 now.
Yeah.
You get it back, but
I believe if you were to create a new account with a new Google, yep, because it's only tracked by email address. So if you wanted to create a new Terra account, I think you would have access to that $300 again. Yeah. But I just want to make one more point. But the downside is that if you were doing work there that you wanted to continue with after your credits ran out, you would then have to, it's kind of complicated because then you have to share your work with another account. So it gets a little complicated, but there is a way, if you wanted to just do some toy examples with your credits, you could do that. Yeah.
So you seem to imply that Terra is a UI that replaces FireCloud and was built from the ground up.
Yep.
What are the chances that Terra is going to disappear and something else is going to be built from the ground up?
I'd say the chances are, I'd say it's likely. Okay. Not anytime soon, but probably in 5 years.
For everybody
Yep.
that invested time in making their software run under FireCloud, does that mean they had to redesign a bunch of stuff to accommodate the UI?
No, not at all. Hopefully you shouldn't. There's definitely some FireCloud users who have run into difficulties transitioning to the new platform. That's a reality. But we have a frontline support team that helps them do that. So there's help available if they run into trouble. And hopefully the average FireCloud user should not run into any significant problems. That should be a fairly seamless transition from just one day logging into Terra, seeing their workspaces there, and just continuing to work.
You implied users didn't have to, but the people who built the software, they would have to.
Indeed, yeah, we are actively supporting Firecloud users in getting over. Yeah, yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
So let's say I create a workspace and I upload some data, and then if I share with another colleague, will I pay for the storage or will he pay for the storage?
You will pay for storage. There is a feature called Requester Pays, which I don't know as much. Does anyone know? Is that?
It's not in yet.
It's not in yet.
in
It's
soon.
coming. Yes. So
We're
it would be
working
paid
actively on it.
for on your. Yeah, they would not pay for. You would pay for. That's correct?
So who owns the data pay for storage? Not everybody who accesses data pay the data for their own share.
Correct.
If
Correct.
you're making the data available through Terra, and you upload it to your workspace bucket, it's whatever cost billing account that you attach to that workspace is what's paying for it. Google does have the ability to host data in their cloud and have what's called requester pays, which is what we've been referencing, where whoever wants to access the data is paying to access it. That's something we are actively and very close to getting in Terra. But right now, you would just have to upload it in a Google bucket outside of Terra if you needed that.
I can transfer this ownership to him, and then he can pay for it, right?
I think if it still resides in your Google bucket,
He would have to clone it and put it in his own billing account, which is possible, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, if there's no further questions, I'll turn it over to Anton. So Anton's actually, I don't think I've ever introduced myself. So my name is as you saw my name on the slide, my name is Robert, and I'm the lead of user education over in DSP. We're a subgroup within what we call customer success in DSP, which is a pretty diverse group which handles everything from marketing of DSP software and tools to white glove support, which means that we have field engineers who give technical expertise to people who need it. And also we're in charge of frontline support. And my group is user education. So Anton's a writer on my team, and he's going to tell you a bit more about Jupyter Notebooks and Terra, and get you hands-on in Terra and doing some cool things.